Hi everyone, and good morning. It's Natalie here. Welcome to my channel. This is Sven. He's having a little sneeze. He may need to go to the vet later today because his eyes are doing some funny things. They're a little squinchy. And Einar is back here in the back of the Snuggie, like resting on my back. So they may pop out at some moment to say hi. So this is the hashtag tarot. It's hashtag tarot tribe tag. So I was tagged very sweetly by V-Love and Crystals, and I think she must have done it about a week ago, and I discovered it last night as I was going through tons of messages and comments that I have not gotten back to over the last few weeks. Okay, so the first question, one, how did you get into tarot and oracles? So a friend in college is the one who got me into this. So she and I were in the same program. She is from Puerto Rico. We're not really in touch anymore, sadly, but and yeah, she had grown up learning how to read tarot and do, very traditional cartomancy, and I just was in complete awe of her and of her ability, and I was very lucky because she was willing to teach me and work with me. So let's see. Are you more drawn to oracle or tarot, and why? I'm going to say that I'm more drawn to tarot, actually, because I feel like within that system, there's so many different ways that someone can create a deck. And I love seeing the kind of depth that people find when they're looking for ways to kind of fit another system in with the tarot. Or the ways in which, I don't know, there's just so many different possibilities within it. But if you know the basic structure, you can find a way to function, you can find a way to work, have like a really good working knowledge and basic knowledge of just one of the top three, we'll say, tarot traditions. So, Tarot de Marseille or Rider-Waite-Smith or Thoth. And with that knowledge, you can kind of unlock and work with almost any deck you find. So yeah, I love that. And that's one of the reasons I find tarot so wonderful. So both of the rats are on my back. That's why I'm like, because that kind of chokes me a little bit when they do that, because they get heavy back there. But they're cozy, so I don't want to move them. It's also really early in the morning, and you can tell because that's east. So yeah. Let's see. If you could create your own deck, what would it be? So I just said all of that stuff about tarot, but I am actually working on the basics of 2 decks right now, but they're both oracle. Isn't that weird? Yeah. So one of them is ultimately going to be based in some form on my sort of what I'm calling my sidewalk mysticism, where I have for at least the last 8 or 9 years, when I go for walks, especially in an urban environment, something about that environment and its changeability and what you find with the connections to nature, like literally on the sidewalk, on the path in front of you, fascinates me. And I've read with it in my own way, kind of divined from that for years. And so, and collected hundreds, if not over 1,000 pictures of just things that I find that are really specific to my own practice, my own experience. So I'm looking at a way to systematize that and work with it in a way that other people might actually benefit from and be able to understand. And then the second one is a deck that is a mix of my own work with plants that I've been doing over the last, say, 5-6 years, especially like eco-printing. And there's one particular plant that I work with and have worked with very, very, very intensely and have kind of combined with a lot of my Buddhist studies. So that will also probably be coming out at some point. I'm not rushing it. I have like so many things that I'm working on right now, including just, being a person in the world. So yeah, that may be a while, but yeah, that would be if I could create my own deck, what would it be? So there we go. Number 4, show us your first deck, whether tarot, oracle, or both. What is which is your first you learned with? Okay, and this is a good replica, a working replica of the first deck that I actually ever had, which would have been back like in 93, I'm thinking. No, it would have been 94, 95, somewhere in there, 94, 95. And it was this type of a Tarot de Marseille. It was only 3 colors. And I loved it. It was definitely enough for me to feel like, wow, I love this. I love working with it. Of course, now I'm much more like this. I would not want to work with this deck particularly. I mean, not when there's so many other beautiful options that have more colors available, and so on and so forth. But when I started in the 90s, this was a great deck to have. My second one, because I worked with that one for several months, and then my friend said, okay, now if you want to work with another deck, you can choose one. You can't use both at the same time, which is so sad. We had that misconception. But yeah, so my second one I keep in this little box, sort of on my tarot magical cabinet altar. Whoops, it's this direction. Ta-da! So it sits there with my tarot Buddha. And this one, if I can get it unwrapped, it's still in its original tarot bag with its original scarf that is silk, which I just remembered I wore when I auditioned to get into Lambda. Isn't that funny? And I still have it. Okay, I don't know why I just thought of that, but it is a universal weight. And there's our little fool. So yeah, this was my first, my first real tarot deck that I ever worked with. It's all kind of brown on the edges because it's been worked with a lot. But, I was thinking about this the other day. Given how hard I used these cards and worked with them, they're really not all that scuffed up and gross looking. They could have been way worse. And I thought the other day, why don't they look worse than they do right now? And I think in part it's because I overhand shuffled a lot in order not to damage the deck, and I was really precious with it. So I never read for myself with it. I only ever used it to read for other people. I had other tarot decks that I worked with as well, most of which are no longer in my possession. And yeah, but this was the first. Okay, so question 5 is, show us your recent deck, Oracle, Tarot, and recent crystal. Why were they calling you? So the most recent oracles, the Fine Lines, 44 meditation cards for intentional living is one of them. And the other one, these arrived the same day, I think, even, was Space Between the Notes, Spirit Doodle Cards by L. Ron Mills. So Space Between the Notes is his site, but Spirit Doodle Cards are the deck. And these decks, let's see, why were they calling me? Well, quite simply, the depth that's behind them. So the Fine Lines cards get you to look at where that line is for you, and contemplate very deeply. Are you retreating or are you escaping? Or is it a little both? Where is that line between the two, and how does it run? Are you in love or in lust? Those two things tend to come together in the same place. Courage to take action versus forcing something to happen. Yeah, I mean, these are the kinds of things I love to contemplate and look at. Oh, I love that one. And they really kind of, when you're looking at a tarot spread, whether I find for myself or for a client, these cards I knew would really kind of get to the heart of the issue. What is the issue that we're looking at? What's underpinning it? What's the major decision? What's a major factor in the decision making that could affect it? These cards are brilliant for that. Brilliant. I also use them to like choose one, and then you can do a spread around it with cards to kind of unpack it a little better. Brilliant deck. The second one, the Spirit Doodle cards by L. Ron Mills, were calling me because of the level of depth of L. Ron's spiritual practice, which I feel strongly and have experienced to be the case, are very, very much a part of the cards and the deck. So when I read with these, the readings are really deep. You know, the images seem very simple, but they're actually incredibly complex. And the way that the colors and the shapes seem to dance together says a lot. I'm also a synesthete, so I sort of, how do I put it? When I listen to music, I see shapes and colors. Often when I'm hearing a story, my brain will, or even just talking, even conversations, my brain will create pictures and images and things that make it meaningful and easy to remember the essence of what's being said. The trouble with that is that I don't always remember the words. Not great if you're an actor. So finding more precision has always been a thing. But these, yeah, I mean, sometimes when the image pops up, I hear. And I've never really had it go in reverse that way. But L. Ron is also a musician, so it makes sense to me that, you know, this one is a trumpet. It's a big, loud horn, but it's one that's off tune. It doesn't, you know, it's abrupt, right? So, yeah. Or oh wow, I'm having trouble describing. But anyway, you get the picture. You get the picture, and it comes with the most wonderful guidebook that is not sitting here. Oh, here it is. I was like, oh, it's not within reach, but it is. And like, there's like 4 pages for every single card, with prompts and meditations and, oh, rats hanging back here. The most recent tarot deck that I got, and I haven't even posted a walkthrough yet, and my unboxing, is the Hoodoo Tarot, by Tiana Lee McQuiller. And it is really amazing. I really just wanted to learn about hoodoo because I realized I don't understand it. I don't have any idea what it is. I watched a video unboxing walkthrough by Queen Osset a little while ago, and it really struck me. Like, she really laid things out in a way that all of a sudden I had an understanding and knew enough about it that I became really curious. And I feel like this is a point in time where it's actually possible for us all to share information like that, but without necessarily needing to appropriate it or misappropriate it. So yeah, and it's led me on a very, really interesting journey, just looking at various different aspects of African American history, basically, because the deck is based on real people. You know, I never knew before getting this deck and before Queen Osset's video, I didn't know who Miss Ida was, and I didn't know how important she really was to certain parts of the African American community, or the hoodoo culture. So I'm just learning a lot, because a lot of these cards are based on actual people or actual events. So it's an education. And then my most recent crystal that I'm really excited to show off is this beautiful Tibetan quartz, which has a Gabo rune built into it, seemingly. And these are called Tibetan black quartz. It also has a really beautiful rainbow inclusion that I'm going to see if I can get in there. You kind of see it. It's full of information. It called to me. It was being sold at a place where I read tarot cards called Synergy Elixirs. And Joe, the owner, goes to, or has been to Tucson several times and gotten hordes of really beautiful stuff and sells them in his coffee shop. And they're just amazing. So I spent a good little chunk of money on this guy. and it has been amazing to work with. I can't quite explain what it is, but it just feels like it holds light and dark in it, right? Together. So it sort of has that feeling of non-duality. There's this like beautiful kind of circular rainbow inclusion that makes me think of like the rainbow body, and it actually kind of looks like a 5-pointed figure, like a person, but I can't really get that on camera here. Not in the way that I want to. It kind of looks like an angel a little bit from this perspective, but it's really stunning. Yeah, I don't know. There's a depth to it that I felt really drawn to work with. My practice as a Buddhist has shifted toward Tibetan practice, so that's, I'm sure, part of it. So question 6. If you could share a tip with someone learning tarot for the first time, what would it be? I thought about this pretty deeply last night. Oh, it's Einar. Hey. He probably won't come out and say much. Okay. He's a little shy. Yeah, I thought about this quite a bit. There's quite a bit of advice that I could potentially offer, but I think the most important of that would be that tarot is life. So if you can find a way to relate the cards, right, what you see in the cards, to real life experiences, right, and draw similarities, between your life experience or the things that you observe in people and in the world, and relate that to cards. So like observing a family situation, right, and saying like, ooh, this is a total 5 of Wands moment in our family right now, right? Or you can identify a state in yourself and you realize, wow, this is my 5 of Cups or my 4 of Cups, right? You're going to connect with your cards a lot faster and you'll remember their essence. So when something comes up, that feeling about that situation or even another situation will spark your intuition, and you'll be able to create that story. So that would be my advice, is just find the way to relate majors and minors, to real people, real situations. It'll change how you work with them. Okay, I think question number 7 is, I didn't write it down, but it's in the prompt. I think the question is, who was the first YouTuber that you, or tarot tuber that you followed? And it was Holly from Cape Cod Creatures. Yeah. And that was, I guess, in December of 2018 is when I started watching her channel. And she doesn't do very much these days, but I'm still subscribed. I still appreciate her work. I loved her deep dives. She would really get in there and look at a deck and pull it apart, and I really enjoyed her critical thought and so on. I think question number 8, again, I seem to have at some point stopped writing the question down, and then I started writing them down again. Okay, would be like, where did you come from? How did you grow up? That kind of thing. I grew up Christian, but very liberal for a Christian, although at that time it was not that liberal. It was very kind of middle of the road. It was definitely not conservative. I wouldn't say it was liberal at the time. I would say it was really middle of the road. Yeah. So I was Christian, but really like hippy dippy liberal, kumbaya, heal the world, love everybody, Jesus is love. I mean, it was really very much that, and it was very accepting. It was not tinged with evangelical notes or anything. It was just very kind. And I think the closest thing I've found to that since being an adult, and moving away from it, is probably like going to kirtan, going to like kirtan concerts, and I mean, literally the people that founded the church that I used to go to were hippies, literally. Number 9, favorite go-to spread, top 3. Okay, so my favorite 3 go-to spreads, I think maybe that's what it is. I would say the first is what I'm referring to as the general reading, also known as the first operation of the opening of the key, or the first operation and opening of the 4 worlds. And it's rooted in the work, and I don't have the book to hand yet again. It's rooted in the work of Paul Foster Case. And that's the general reading that I do every week on my channel. So that's the first one. The second one would be, got to pull out my tarot spread cheat sheets here, would be the Marion relationship spread. And it's on the top of this one. So it does the querent's heart and mind, and then their partner's heart and mind, and then 5 is the foundation of the relationship, 6 is the spiritual advice, and 7 is the outcome, if the spiritual advice is followed. And that is from the back of the Marion Tarot book. Yeah. It's usually the one that's like, okay, yep, that's covered by this one. Okay, my third go-to spread is the Who I Desire to Be spread by none other than Jeff Burr of Tattooed Spirits. I always write down the person's name at the bottom of my card. But yeah, this is a really good one for like tarot, like fairs and events where people don't really necessarily know what they want to know, but I don't have time to do a general reading because I need to stay in 20 minutes or less. So these two, the first 2 cards represent the who and how the querent is right now. 3, I'm aware of my camera really blurring while I'm doing this. 3 represents who the querent desires to become and the path that they're taking. And then 4 is what it would look like when you get there. 5 is the next step to take on your path. And I find that my clients, when they come to me for a reading and they don't know what else they're supposed to ask, find it really helpful. Yeah, it gives them a really good basic sense of who and what they're doing and what they are and the direction they're going in, and yeah, all of that stuff. So number 10, the most anticipated deck of 2020. That is going to be, simply put, it's just going to be the next one that strikes a deep chord. I'm always like looking at new decks and finding out like different things, but I don't really actively pursue a lot of that. It's kind of passive. I don't really have a need to know what the next big thing is that's coming or who made it or where, you know, if I find those things out, it's great. If I don't, it's totally fine. Number 11, what is in your tarot wish list? I have significantly cut back my tarot wish list in recent months. Oh, boys, they are so heavy. There we go. And I carry, this is my traveler's notebook, and in here, where is it? Here we go. I have this wish list that looks like this. Okay, so what's on the wish list? The Weaver's Oracle is on there because I've been wanting to work with that one for a while, but I know that when I get it, it's going to be really intense. So I'm kind of waiting on that one a little bit before I bring it in because I want to make sure that I've got the space to really work with it. The El Goliath Tarot is on my list. The Tree Spirit Tarot and the Mandala Chakra Oracle, both by Laurel Virtues Waters. Those are 2 I really want to get, and I think they'll probably be the next ones. These are just kind of fun ones that I'd really like. The Oracle of Black Enchantment and the Mildred Payne's Secret Pocket Oracle. So those are just ones that I want. I know that there are more that are on my kind of like back of my mind list that I just have not written down. If they're really important, I will write them down and I'll make sure that I get them. Oh, and on that list too, it was at the top and I kind of scanned over it, is the Tabula Mundi. I would also add to that list, I'd love to get a copy of the Stone Marseille. I think it's just, I can't remember exactly. I think it's the Tarot Noir, but you can only get it on a French website on like the French at Amazon. Question number 12. What were your impressions, fears, first impressions and fears about tarot? I'm going to say that what I was really scared of when I first encountered with it was getting bad news or in some way like some kind of confirmation that I'm doomed. That was really my like, whoa, you know, what if it's going to tell me I'm going to die? I mean, that was really it. Number 13, I did not write the question down. I think it was about asking, do you want to read tarot? And I wasn't sure if that meant like, do you want to read it for yourself? Do you want to read it for others? Do you want to read it professionally? Either way, I do all 3 of those. So it's kind of not an applicable question. So I just skipped it. Number 14, have you ever gotten a reading from another reader and what were your feelings toward it? Yes. I've had many readings from other people and I love it. Mostly, I've gotten them from friends. I used to, when I was younger, I used to seek out readings from tarot readers. And in my mid-20s, I quit doing that altogether because I found that I would listen and take that information as like gospel. And it really messed with me. It was not wise. I did not think of it as entertainment. I didn't think of it as like gentle guidance or, hey, the person maybe is just giving you a psychic reading, but at very best, they'll be about 80% accurate. I remember once paying a lot of money to go to a really, really popular, well-known psychic locally. And locally here in St. Louis, I think I was about 21. And I was desperate to find a soulmate, and I was desperate to get married and do all the things that you do at that age, or start thinking about, and base your self-worth on. And she gave me what felt at the time like the most unbelievable psychic reading, and I was so intent on it being 100% true that even when life was contradicting everything she said, I would still look at it and be like, oh no, it's got to be real. It's got to be true. Well, maybe that part didn't work out. Like I didn't end up living in Ireland or in Dublin. Almost nothing in that reading actually turned out to be accurate. Almost nothing. In fact, I think I remember at some point afterwards listening to it again, because you used to go and they'd give you a tape cassette. And I would listen to the cassette tape, and I would listen back to it and think, wow, it's been 3 years or 4 years or whatever, and none of that came true. So it just kind of makes you wonder, because she was so, oh no, there was one thing. She sat down and she said, okay, what's your name? Tell me your address. She wrote it all down. And then she just kind of went, oh, wow, you're moving. And she was right about that. I was getting ready to move. And I think that was it. But since coming back to tarot, I've had lots of readings with friends, mostly with other tarot readers that belong to like the local groups that I attend, where we practice and we read for each other. And I really enjoy it. I tend to go more through, when I go for my own reading, I tend to go to people I trust. I tend to go to friends that I trust. And this kind of goes into number 15. What kind of vibes do you like to feel when getting a reading? I really, if I understand the question correctly, I really need to trust the authenticity of the reader, and I need to feel safe. So I need to feel like there's no way I'm going to be judged, and I need to feel that the reader is coming from a really authentic place, which includes, their own spiritual practice. Question number 16, tag the next person. So I'm going to tag 2 people who I love dearly, who have been away from YouTube and taken a bit of a break and are just now coming back. So tag your it, Diane Jarecki, Indigo Moon Woman, and tag your it, Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot. All right, folks, thank you so much. I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.